last week, Housing and Urban Development Secretary Jack Kemp applauded the efforts of public housing residents to become more active in their city-run communities. But his accolades come a little bit too late to Elizabeth Wright. She's been boss lady on her turf for over 25 years.
Some of the things they say about public housing is true, though. Look at this filth out here. And most of us out here has little babies that runs around. The place is just really run down. There's a lot of drugs, but it's home.
Tucked away in the southwest pocket of Baltimore, Westport is one of a dozen communities built for low-income people and run by the city. Elizabeth Wright has lived in Westport for over 29 years. Tired of a city dictatorship, she has taken over her own turf.
I can't really understand the lack of participation. I won't say the lack of concern. It's the lack of participation, and you hear all kinds of excuses for not doing it. I don't feel I'm the boss lady, but I do know my community. I do check out facts. I deal with facts.
No one has felt the growing pains of public housing as much as Elizabeth Wright. She has raised 11 children here, where the average income is just under $5,000, and the average family is headed by a young single parent. The odds are tough to beat.
The kids were not laughing. They weren't happy. You know, most of the time you see kids laughing, and a lot of these kids, we just noticed it one day. You don't hear the laughter. Don't go too fast.
Mrs. Wright defied the odds, sending 8 of her children to college. But with her own children away from home, she has opened her arms to an entire community of kids. She went back to school and got a license to open the first tenant-run daycare center in the city.
Today, not too many young folks are going to school or seeking higher education. It doesn't seem to be as much dedication, I say, because they will say the parents should. Well, what I say, if the parents don't, somebody else should. All my children in here that I have, their parents are either working or in school. A lot of them got their little GED, and a lot of them got jobs, just for the mere fact of knowing that they can.
I'm something special. I'm the only one of my kind.
Mrs. Wright's heart may belong to the children of Westport, but her voice belongs to over 47,000 people who live in Baltimore public housing. As chairman of the Resident Advisory Board, she fought hard for better living conditions, everything from showers in the units to leases for the tenants. But Mrs. Wright feels her major contribution has been knocking down negative stereotypes which plague public housing, mainly that the tenants here are on a free ride.
Oh, they think public housing is something different. But to me, public housing development is no different than no other community. It is for low-income people, but then, too, we have people that pay high rent, because everybody that lives in public housing pay at least 30% of their income for rent.
I've been impressed with what's happening in public housing. I think we should encourage the positive and, of course, put a lid on and put an end, I should say, to the criminal activity.
Police! Police!
Now the tenants of Westport face their biggest challenge yet, the escalating drug war. In a nationwide effort to stamp out drugs, led by HUD Secretary Jack Kemp, public housing has been singled out as a festering ground for the nation's drug problem. Since 1986, over 250 Baltimore families have been evicted from public housing for drug-related activities.
I didn't know how to handle the situation myself when I found out that a couple of my boys were using drugs. You know, it was just devastating. I just didn't know what to do. There's no need for a family to be evicted about drugs when the person who was dealing the drugs or using the drugs is no longer in the home. But under the new regulations, still the whole family would be gone. So we're saying that if certain things are happening and the services there to assist that family, do that first instead of just evict them where they're going.
The few people who were able to leave Westport never look back. But if they did, they'd still find Mrs. Wright bringing spirit and laughter to her community.
That's it.
I saw the pretty rainbow smiling down at me.
I have a son that lives in Annapolis in a little doll house. He always tell me to come on, live with him. No, I like where I live. Nothing wrong with my home, and nothing wrong with my community. You gonna give me my hug? All right. Be a good girl, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Well, she's quite a lady. Mrs. Wright's next project should bring some music to the community. The kids have formed a Say No to Drugs club, and now they want Mrs. Wright to help them form a marching band. The only problem is, of course, that takes a lot of money for uniforms and instruments and music, but somewhere out there, I know there is a business who would love to sponsor a marching band like that. If you'll give us a call at the office, we'll tell you how to get in touch with Mrs. Wright.